Watching all the world go by now, underneath the hazy sky now. Got my ticket for the long ride. Yeah, from my park bench perspective, got that wide-eyed view on life. My park bench perspective, helping me to win the fight.
How you doing, Mike Hammer?
Carlos Figueroa, I am outstanding or standing out.
As long as you're not outstanding in your field, right?
Oh, yeah, doing good.
All right.
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Hey, welcome, folks, to Park Bench Perspectives. We're two longtime friends. See, I didn't use the word old that time. I spent time on a virtual park bench talking about our lives, the city we grew up in, St. Louis Park, Minnesota, and what we see is going on in the world today. Just a couple of old friends having a conversation, and we're happy to have you sit on the bench next to us and have a listen.
I like that, the bench. Put it on the bench. Get on the bench. You know, on different things, it means if you never get off the bench, you're always on the bench. I'm a bench player.
But you know what? Here's the thing. People complain about the bench, but, you know, there's a sixth man award in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Right? Where does that sixth man sit?
And sometimes, you know, sitting on the bench, you get a good perspective. Boom.
Oh,
Boom.
wow. Do you, stay up all night making these up, or
Just during the day when I'm
are you trying to do a mic drop?
We're going to get this tambourine working.
All
Like
right.
Davy Jones. There you go. Old friends. And that's an interesting term because it's been a lot of years that we have been friends. And you have friends that are just like glove. You dive back into where you were last time you saw them, and it's ease. And you're always like, so good to see so and so, because it takes no effort.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. Some people, you're really good friends with them, but you're like, gotta have some energy for this one.
You know, Mike, you and I have known each other for 56 years.
About that?
And, you know, so when we talk, basically our conversations are remembering our life as we grew up, talking about the world today, and maybe talking about how the world is different than that. So we're basically throwing a microphone on our conversations here.
Yeah. And it's kind of like brother from another mother type thing where I say your siblings, no one's going to know you better than your siblings because you're going to be in a relationship with them longer than anybody else. Parents go, whatever. But friendships like this is borderline that, because you at this point now where you know you can't get rid of me. And it's kind of like it's a brother, you know, how he does those things. Why you stay? It's not like seriously, why do you stay brothers with him?
Well, one of the things I love about you, Mike, is I love your perspective. And you shared with me a perspective that I found interesting, and I think we should pursue it, which is thinking about the world we grew up in and how small that world was, and as we got older, how it got bigger. And I don't think you can make the same analogies to today's world for kids growing up, because the internet opens up the whole world. I mean, to us, if we wanted to know about the world, we either go to the library or I'd grab, you know, one of the Encyclopedia Britannicas that my parents had purchased for us.
There was a funny story. I was talking to somebody earlier on the encyclopedia, but real quick about how small our world turned out to be, but how big it was in our eyes.
Yes.
And it was bordered by Highway 12, Cedar Lake Road, Louisiana, and as far east as you could go, because the Highway 100 or whatever, but
And just, you know, let's give some people an idea of what our youthful perspective was. You know, we grew up in the north side of St. Louis Park. It was called the Eliot neighborhood.
Eliot development.
And you know, I mean, my world was school, and it was friends, and expanded a little bit with Cub League and Little League Baseball and Cub Scouts. But it really was, my entire universe was the people that I went to school with and I played ball with, and the ones I played with in the neighborhood.
The neighborhood was big, but it was so small when we got older. But the funny part about the neighborhood was there wasn't a lot of hockey players. And I would bring this up, why did you get into hockey? You know, it was like, our neighborhood didn't play hockey. We played basketball for some reason.
Yeah.
And the dads were like, I don't know anything.
I mean,
about
there was that you could skate over there behind the firehouse right there in you know, off Louisiana and Cedar Lake Road, but
I skated there all the time. Saturday and Sunday was great. You go down there until your feet hurt and whatever. When you could get off the two blades under one, that was a big step.
I actually, I think I picked basketball for my winter sport because I can't play baseball during summer or during winter in Minnesota. But the more important thing was I was tall.
You were tall, but
I was tall. I was basically this height when I was 11 or 12. And then something happened. I used to play on the traveling team there in St. Louis Park in the 6th, 7th grade. And Mike Gavrin was our coach, and I was really good because I was tall. And then something happened between 13 and 14 where I went from the tallest kid on the team to like the 7th tallest, and it was all the same kids.
That was funny.
I peaked early, Hammer. I peaked early. You know what? I led in scoring and also in the lowest shot percentage.
And the most rebounds.
Yeah, I was a rebounding machine.
Yeah. So our world was small and big, and
bikes were the first thing that expanded our world.
Oh, and Kenny got the Stingray, the banana seed, yellow Stingray with the gear shift of the three.
Did you have bike envy?
I think a lot of times you get into bike, not really. It wasn't like there was people running out buying new bikes, but we put together a lot of bikes. We got parts. Yeah. And we learned how to put together.
Maybe I never was part of car culture, and maybe because I wasn't part of bike culture, but I had a bike. I don't remember doing anything other than maybe as a little kid, I put turbocharger in it by putting a baseball card against my spokes. Beyond that, that's the limit of my attempt to be Greg LeMond or Lance Armstrong.
And you're like, don't do this to me. You're marking me. Don't do it. But across the street, so at Eliot, it's funny, the older kids would have their bikes, and it was part when you got a dirt bike.
Yeah.
A dirt bike.
Yes.
And not a power one.
We were all idolizing Evel Knievel. So we wanted to do jumps.
And the butts up the street. They had real dirt bikes, motorized.
Just to clarify, that was the family name. He wasn't insulting the family.
Nope, that was the last name. And then at Eliot across the street, we would go in the one parking lot where the faculty parking lot was, and we would go off that little 4 or 5 foot embankment, and we'd try to clear the pavement. And if you didn't, you got hurt. But if you did, you were up.
I miss old Eliot Elementary. The number of hours I spent hitting a tennis ball against the side of that brick building.
Yeah, and in the backyard and the playground area is there. How many Game 7s of the World Series I pitched because I painted a strike zone in the bricks there.
And actually, you know what? I mean, my world was Eliot Elementary, and I think one of my very first memories of you was you and I showing up very early before school. And one of the things, the joys back in that day was that you could use your milk ticket to get chocolate milk. The only problem, there was only like 4 or 5 or 6 pints for the whole school. So the odds are you wouldn't have them. So Mike taught me if we show up early, and then we take a couple of chocolate milks and we bury them underneath in the bottom milk crates. Then when we go to lunch, we can just pull it up and grab a chocolate milk, which worked brilliantly. And once again, I'm in awe of your problem solving skills, even back then.
Just if you don't see it, it's not there.
Mrs. Towie was the principal. Miss Connors was my kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, cool.
Miss Granzo / Hollenbeck, because she got married mid-year, was my first grade teacher. My second grade teacher was Mrs. Quartz.
You had Quartz. That's where we split up, because we had kindergarten and first grade. And I remember, and I'll let you get back to Mrs. Quartz after Mrs. Quartz in a second, but Mrs. Cotter, first day of kindergarten.
Yeah.
No matter how boisterous you become in life, you're trying to fly under the radar. You just want to get through this day like, I just said, what's going on? First day of class, and Mrs. Connors goes, well, class, we do have a celebrity amongst us.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's like, ooh, what does that mean even? Yeah, Mike Hammer, project executive. And I'm looking, going, why is she picking on me? What? Whoa, this isn't under the radar. This is, way over. And I didn't even know what radar was back then. But she said that, and I go home, I go, Mom, why do people know me? You don't know my name. Mickey Splay was a writer in this, and when he wrote his book, Mike Hammer was a private eye. It was private eye. It was a character, and it was in a couple movies, and it was in a show with Stacy Keats.
Stacy Keats. That was on when we were in high school, I think. Yes, Mike Hammer, private eye.
In the late 80s, and it's coming back supposedly. But yeah, one of my children said, Dad, you never told me about Mike Hammer was a character, and I said it all my life, Mike Hammer, private eye for no was the reason that there wasn't my camera private eye.
I'm going to give you an analogous story, then go back to the teachers. Your story about Mrs. Connors and Mike Hammer reminds me of me in college as an undergrad at St. Thomas. And I think I was probably a sophomore, junior, and I was taking a foreign policy class. And I cannot remember the name of the professor, but he says to me, he goes, "Oh, are you the infamous Carlos?" And I had no freaking clue what I eventually learned is a foreign policy class that for 20 years, the most infamous terrorist, the number one on the most wanted list, they'd never seen a picture of him, they didn't know his name, and they referred to him as Carlos, the Jackal. So if you ever heard of the Jackal, it was Carlos. So once again, I had that same reaction. It's like, why are you picking on me? Why are you singling me out now?
Yeah.
And I wasn't 5. I was, 21.
Tie it all together. Today, the news came out that a famous person passed away. That in our life, he was Mr. Karate. So many punchlines were made about Chuck Norris.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that his name was Carlos?
You know what? I actually was telling Pam that last night. She didn't believe me. And I'm like, no, it says it right here. I saw it on the internet. It must be true.
So for me, I'm like, oh, is he Latin? Somewhere along the lines.
Exactly. Like, where did that come from?
You can't be Norwegian and call Carlos.
Or you know what? Maybe his dad just liked to screw with people. Thank you. Look at Mike Hammer doing the research that I didn't do.
Yeah, see, Chuck Norris didn't need an ethnicity behind his name. He made it his.
All right, I'm going to pull that string and get us back on track and talk about my 3rd grade teacher, who I remember, Mrs. Thompson.
Oh, she was fun.
4th grade.
I mean, in a good way.
4th grade, Miss Popovich.
Popovich, she was, yeah.
She also attended my church, Ascension Lutheran, our little Lutheran church that no longer exists on Cedar Lake Road in Hampshire. But she was a member. She was always supporting the youth. Then in 5th grade, we were in a science experiment called Team Room, where they said, let's throw some 5th and 6th graders together. And, my anxiety-ridden body went crazy because I'm like, my God, 6th graders.
Well, there was a class, each grade had a separate one. If you didn't want to be in the team room, 5th grade had a 5th grade class for the people that didn't want to be in 6th grade.
No.
But so did your parents make you go, or did you want to go?
I do not know how I got in there, but I will tell you this. You bear your soul on these things. So, I have struggled with anxiety my whole life, and I had a massive bout of it. I don't know if you remember. I missed the first 2 weeks of school in 5th grade because my body couldn't handle it. I was freaking out. And
Interesting.
I don't remember what the prognosis was and this and that, but I know it was. I was scared shitless to be around 6th graders.
Talking about how big or small our world was.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about, for a second, our own little world in our mind. Because I don't remember not seeing you for 2 weeks because I was stuck in my little my mind, whatever. But I think part of why we went in it because my sister was 2 years older and she was in it.
Yeah.
And she told me how cool it was and how fun it was. You didn't have a desk, you had tables, and you had a tote, and your tote was up there.
So we had 2 teachers, Miss Werkheimer
Yes.
and Miss... I just said her name. Anyways,
If we pulled out.
Hollenbeck was my 1st grade teacher. Anyways.
This is my sister's oldest had her as a teacher. Had her Miss Soldick as a teacher.
Oh, funny.
Her hair still looked the same.
Was it she had the beehive?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she broke my little 5-year-old heart when she got married mid-year because for sure I was going to propose if that other guy didn't jump in. Yeah. So 6th grade, they shut down our beloved Eliot School, and we have to go over and share a school with our rivals, the hated Cedar Manor.
Cedar Manor. Half of us went to Cedar Manor, the other half went to
Peter Hobart.
Peter Hobart. Now, do you remember back to small world, small mind? Do you remember any of the discussions going on?
I just could not understand. Like, I was told that I could not cross the railroad tracks, and that was why I could not go to Peter Hobart. Because I didn't want to go to Cedar Manor because we hated them because we always competed them in sports. Yeah. And I've got some tremendous friends that went to Cedar Manor, but I'm talking about my 11-year-old mind thinking about having to go, and I want to go to Peter Hobart, and I'm like, how the hell did Mike Schultz able to go to Peter Hobart? He's got to cross the Satan railroad track.
Yeah. Peter Hobart was 3/4 of a mile from our house. Cedar Manor was 2 miles.
Yep.
And it didn't make sense, but things happened for a reason.
Yep.
But I don't remember. I want, in my mind, thinking back, it was just all of a sudden, somebody got up today. Today we're closing Eliot, and that's it. There's no discussion, boom, and all of a sudden we went along with it. But I'm sure it happened more like there was discussions and talk.
That's why as we were growing up, we're watching schools get closed right behind us because not enough kids, not enough babies.
San Luis Park used to graduate 1,200, 1,400 kids.
And what was it, like 253?
No, for us, we had
400?
485.
Wow. I knew like 3 of them.
No,
I know you and Kenny, and that's about it.
I knew all of them, I think.
You do. You are Mr. Social.
And it wasn't like we didn't rant and rave and stop. Also, it was just like, well, this sucks. You gotta go there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going out to play now.
Yeah.
Is this discussion over? Because just tell me where I gotta be when I gotta be there.
I remember, and I think that this was in the Sun Sailor because I remember seeing it as a quote, and it is so innocently sweet that I remember it. George, our dear janitor at Eliot, said when they combined us with Cedar Manor, because what's this going to mean for youth sports in St. Louis Park? He was very concerned that 4th and 5th and 6th graders were not going to have proper competition. And you know what? Good for you, George, caring about the things that nobody else was caring about.
But remember that we were the only year that got to keep our
We
team.
did. We actually did compete as Eliot while we were in class with Cedar Manor, which I don't know, it doesn't strike me as smart planning, but that's how they did it.
And they put me, Kenny, and Roger Cruzy in the same class.
Yeah. We were in Mrs. Johnson's class. On day 1, we were sitting next to each other, all 4 of us in the corner. And on day 2, we were all sitting in the 4 corners of the room.
And on day 3,
Well, Mike was out in the hall.
and let's just say that was day after day after day after day.
Remember, I think you and I got kicked out of class one time for playing cards during a film strip or a movie.
Yeah.
And so we got kicked out and we went out in the hall with the cards. And so we were sitting outside playing. And then Mr. Siegel, our wonderful principal at Cedar Manor, said, wait a minute, why are you guys outside in the hallway playing cards? And he made you and I go on separate sides of the hallway. Not across, but a long way, like 100 yards away from each other.
One thing to do out loud to cure my boredom. A couple times I brought jacks in the Super Bowl, playing jacks until someone spotted me doing that. Buzzkill. Todd used to get kicked out once in a while on the same side.
Yeah.
And we used to bounce Super Bowl back and forth. That's kind of how we met. And Mr. Nelson, I think, was a teacher, the 5th grade teacher in the classroom next to us. And we got to be friends because he'd always come out and say, just thought I'd come on and say hi to you for a bit and talk. And yeah, that was.
But, I mean, long term, so many friendships were created there, right? I mean, lifelong friendships. And so, but once again, the world is very small when you're 11 years old and you don't see that. You just see, how is this going to affect my not my little league game, but my basketball game or my football game?
When I have old friends, you got to start early. Through life, I've made friends way back then, and all the way along, I've had friends that some are only a year long, but they feel like they're a lot longer, and it's just.
I actually have folks, I mean, we're Facebook friends, right? We're acquaintances.
Yep.
But they're folks I've kind of picked up along the way that I worked with them for a year, like 20 years ago, and we still have so many great stories and stuff that I kind of want to see how he's doing and what's going on, and if fate ever puts us in the same city at the same time, it'd be nice to have a beer with them. Those relationships for me are harder to create. I find it fascinating that I grew up. My father and you are so very similar in terms of how social you are and how genuinely interested you are in other human beings. And I am equally genuinely interested in other human beings, but I do not have the whatever it is that allows me to spark up a conversation.
What are you doing?
What's that? The strange.
Kind of like the commercials now. What is it?
Don't become your parents' commercials.
Yeah.
But I'm like going, I don't like it.
No,
Because seriously, you know what? Everybody should at the valet. Hey, what's the coolest car you ever drove? You ever got a chance to drive? You're in Vegas. I mean, come on, you have to ask that. Or Pam always asks when we're in a cab. So, any celebrities you've ever had in the cab? What are the stories? Because it's like going, you're in the car anyways. You might as well hear fun stories.
If you're all there, they're just as bored as you are. So talk to them. They don't want to talk. They'll turn the radio up louder. It's fun to find out other people's things, and a lot of times you find what they're doing, their perspective, and then you find out, hey, we got a lot in common. And sometimes you're like, but I don't have time to reminisce with my old friends. To make new friends, I'm sorry, but
I mean, here's the thing: is people are often shocked when I tell them about like social anxiety and stuff. Because if I know you and am comfortable with you, I will talk your freaking ear off. You'll wish that I wasn't able to talk. Yeah. But I'm just, to me, there is no more horrible event than going to like a cocktail or a social hour that's professional. I hate that. Like, I have to go with somebody that's social like you and be on your hip the whole time because, like, God, walking up to a group of 4 or 5 people that are talking and having them stop talking when you show up, I mean, my brain is making up all kinds of scenarios that are crazy.
I guess a lot of it's been from a young age being, my friend went home and told us around selling Avon and other stuff.
Yeah.
But just that ability to look and see and ask questions. And
My mom was an Avon lady too.
God, that was funny back then. How many little figurines of cologne aftershave did you have sitting?
Hey, okay, wait. Have you ever looked up on eBay what people get for those Avon cologne containers?
That are not, they're still sealed, not open?
Oh, no. It doesn't. It can be empty. It's like, I had them all and it pisses me off. I throw them all away. Like the little race car.
A cowboy hat.
Cowboy hat. No, but you go on eBay, those things sell for a fortune.
I bet. We had a bunch of them too. My grandpa had a bunch of them too.
Well, that's my dad would say Maria did not sell Avon. She just bought samples.
Yeah, and told the neighbor what she bought. I'm not trying to sell it to you, really. I'm just going to have to tell him, knock on your door and show you what I bought. It was easy to, if somebody walks in, you're like, hey, you're my new buddy.
I mean, I suppose you have to be there anyways.
They're coming in.
And the more they feel happy, the bigger your tip, right?
Well, and the more they come back. And that's a bigger tip is you get these.
The lifelong value of the customer.
These friends in the bar business that are your bar friends.
Yeah.
In a sense that from a working customer standpoint, they come in to see you, you talk to them, and then maybe you go out once in a while outside of the bar, and a lot of times you're like, oh, let's just keep it.
So let me ask you this, because this is a massive tangent, but I'm curious about it, and I'm actually also writing something about the bar business right now. What is the danger of having friends that want to have freebies? Because to me, I've always had the rule, if your friend is selling a product, you need to purchase it at full price to support them and not try to get freebies and discounts. That's what you should do if you have a friend in business. That's just Carlos's philosophy, but I would imagine that you have a lot of folks who are like going, I don't want to pay.
Well, here's the thing that's funny, and you find this out. In that industry, you find a lot of things about human nature. And it revolved around birthdays. All the time. Somebody would buy me a drink. It's my birthday. And you're like, so a birthday present is something you buy someone, but now you made a request. So I'm fulfilling an obligation, not giving you a present. So I don't want to buy you a drink now because so what? You got a birthday.
I got to interrupt because it's one of my dad's favorite stories about my dad. My dad had an employee. God love him. I won't mention his name, but he said to my dad, my wife's pregnant. I'm going to need a raise. And my dad's like, I'm fairly certain I did not get your wife pregnant, so I do not see how this is a Carlos problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it was their birthday. They didn't say a word.
Yeah.
They had more drinks lined up in front of them.
Yeah.
They could do it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you force the hand and say, it's my birthday, now it's not a gift.
It's an obligation. Something nice for you. You're taking that away from me.
I'm filling this obligation. You feel like because your parents had sex so many years ago, I owe you a drink. I don't know where I fit into that scenario. But also, when friends come in, yes.
You want to do nice for them, but
and the people, when I would do some labor or some stuff, they'd like, oh, I got the cheapest. I'm like, no, don't sell me out. You say, I got a guy that does a really good job at a really fair price.
So I
remember when we started drinking, not to say that was part of our life, but how it got a little bit bigger and stuff like that. But
you started partying and meeting people from different schools, different walks of life, and it's like the world gets bigger as you get older.
We combined with Central, and as we got
at the high school, and
first saw a freshman in the high school in 30, 40 years or something. We were well received.
That's great. I'm going to just encourage folks, please, leave comments if there's something that you think we should talk about, or if we've given too much of a north side of St. Louis Park bias, tell us what was going on the other areas in St. Louis Park. Tell us your favorite restaurant. Leave a comment or send us an email, or we're happy to have you on the show to share your perspective, because we really want to make this conversation in a community talking about our community.
Where do they find your stuff too?
I actually will have some links shortly to my new novel called The Ghost of Lake Osakis. And then right now, I'll put the link in the show notes for my Substack where I write articles, systemsunderpressure.substack.com.
And let's leave them with this till they'll come back for another episode. But, you know, I guess it's time to park it.
All right.
Where do we park it?
On the bench, my friend.
Because we just shared with you our
Perspective.
parch bench perspectives. I'm dropping the proverbial mic. Hammer out.
All right. Next time. Thanks for joining us.
Watching all